Hey, this is Keith from Outlaw Speed Shop, and as you saw, this week I'm tackling a Dodge Charger. This was sent to me by a client, the same one who sent last week's video of the Dune Daddy. This one is in much worse shape. This is an ertl brand. It's very, very brittle, and it's in very, very bad shape. So like with any project, I have to start by drilling out the posts. I've heard horror stories about the ertls. To say it's a plastic base would be a stretch. I mean, it's plastic, but it is paper thin. So I had to be very, very careful in taking it apart and slowly prying one side and the other side, drill a little bit more, back and forth. Finally, once you get it off, I mean, it's like nothing there for a base. It's very, very thin. The wheels are just held in by one tab. Very cheaply made, and it was certainly a challenge. A lot of the base, the front and rear bumpers are molded in, as well as the brush guard for the front, and it had seen better days. And unfortunately, there wasn't a lot I could do with it. The back passenger side rear quarter, you can see me flexing it there, barely putting any pressure. The back rear bumper was pretty well stoved up. And surprisingly, it has no steering wheel, no dashboard. It has two seats. Again, very cheaply made. And that was my WTF hands. The window was painted with a pen or I really have no, it looks like a Sharpie, to be honest with you. So yeah, it's in pretty bad shape. And the body looked like it had been painted once with a paintbrush, I guess. It's really, really bad. So it is what it is, and this is what I was tasked with doing. He supplied me with some Mopar rims, and granted, they're not the stock, well, not the ones that would have been on the General Lee, but this is more of a custom anyway, so they really do look good on the car, and they were very easy to install. I believe those are from the Greenlight Mopar collection for tires and rims, so I actually have the same set. But yeah, it works out pretty good. They look, they're great rims, they're easy to install, and it was a piece of cake. So just fitting it, making sure they were slightly larger than the ones that came with it, but not much, so I was just checking, make sure they fit. The challenge for me, aside from just the entire horrible shape of the vehicle, was I was sent black decals. The rebel flag for the roof, the numbers on the side, the verbiage, General Lee, everything was black. So obviously I wasn't going to go with the traditional orange color of the General Lee, and this is me taking some liberty here. I didn't really ask him what color he wanted. I just kind of did what I wanted to do, which is kind of what I do anyways. So I kind of hemmed and hawed back and forth on color. And in the end, I think I did a pretty good job picking a color, considering I have a hard time picking out my own clothes sometimes. So, excuse me, I was half tempted to leave it the way it was because I really thought it had a really cool look to it, but he wanted it painted. So into the Bucket O citrus strip that I have, and every once in a while I'll add some more. I know it looks pretty dirty, but before I realized I forgot to put the screws in after I had tapped them, and I don't like dipping it in the citrus strip or painting it or doing anything without the screws in, just because it has a tendency to kind of get into the screw hole, and it just makes it difficult on final assembly. So here's me trying to be careful and put the screw inside the chemicals. So even though this stuff's kind of safe. I just like to keep it off my tools and off my fingers if I can. Um, so a little bit of a bath here in the citrus strip, and I was really a little worried about what I was going to find underneath based on what I saw originally. I mean, this thing is really, really rough. But overall, aside from a little bit on the front, let's see, I think it was the passenger side fender, really it was much better shape than I expected once you strip the paint off. It's almost like the paint, the extra goopiness of the black paint that somebody decided to put on actually protected it a little bit, so it worked out really well. But it was definitely a surprise to me. I was kind of caught off guard as how good it was for considering how bad the rest of the car was, just quality-wise in general. So obviously I have to attack the windshield. I'm using some 1200 wet sandpaper, wet dry, and I'm just going to wet sand the Sharpie or paint or whatever it was. Came off, I'd say, fairly simple. It did leave a little bit of a tint to it, and I don't think the windshield was originally tinted to begin with, but it actually has a kind of a cool look, especially with the color I end up going with. So worked out pretty good actually, but I got 99.9% of it off with just wet sanding, and then I just gave it a quick buff and wax, and then I dipped it in the Future Shine. But it worked out pretty good. I don't think I've ever tackled a windshield that was this bad as far as having paint on it. I've seen different tutorials because I watch all of them on how to do it. My first step was just to wet sand and see how bad it was. And surprisingly, it came off. So either it hadn't been done that long ago, or it just, whatever was on it, whether it be Sharpie or paint, just didn't adhere into the actual plastic and absorb just enough to give it that little bit of a tint. But overall, the wet sanding did a good job. So that was a plus. That was one of my bigger obstacles that I was concerned about, because when you're rebuilding something for somebody, if it was for me, I would have just, if I couldn't have fixed it, I would have just made a Gaslands car out of it and totally just destroyed the hell out of it and put metal patches on it and all kinds of stuff. But being for a customer, I had to be conscious of it, and it's not like I had a spare windshield or I could even get a spare windshield. So same thing with all the parts on this. When you're doing work for other people, it always seems like it's a lot more stress unless you have multiple of the same car, because if you screw up, and you're screwing somebody else's car up. So it is a little bit nerve-wracking. But out of the citrus strip, I got 90% of the paint off. There was some the one good thing about ertl is they do have some really deep body lines. Bad thing is paint sticks in it. So I'm just taking a dental pick and I'm going to go through and get off the rest that didn't come off with the brass brush in the sink and so on. And then I'm going to go back over it with my wire wheel attachment on my Dremel tool, just to get, some of the areas that the dental pick kind of got off a little bit and scratched up. So it's kind of like a two-step process. It works out pretty good. I mean, most of the time I don't need a dental pick. Here I got my twirly fuzzy thing from when doing the windshield on the Dremel tool, so I'm going to swap it out with I picked up a bigger wire brush, and I find that it's a little bit more expensive, but the little hairs don't fly off as bad when you're using it. And if anybody's ever done this and you use it, these little hairs get everywhere. They get in your clothes, and they're there like 3 weeks later. You go to put your shirt on, and you're still feeling something scratchy inside. It's nuts. So the bigger one seems to be a little bit better. But I'll just go in. I'm going to make sure I get all the, because the paint job is going to be the only saving grace on this car. So I wanted to make sure I got all the cracks and crevices, nooks and crannies, as clean as I could possibly get it. And the wire brush attachments definitely make a huge difference. I've used brass and I've used the steel, and I haven't noticed any difference in the paint and how it affects the body. They're not that abrasive where it's going to scratch anything. So once I'm done with that, I'm going to hit some steel 4/0 steel wool, go in, just I've been doing this, I'd say, for about a month now, and I probably should have been doing it all along. The steel wool serves a couple purposes. It'll actually polish the surface, but at the same time, it's just abrasive enough where I think it gives the primer a good bite. And I'm never not going to use it again. So I don't remember who I saw. I mean, everybody does it, but there was a certain person on YouTube I was watching that used it, and kudos to him, whoever you are. Definitely makes a huge difference. And because I was having some primer sticking issues at one point, if you watch probably about 6-7 videos back. So after that, I'm going to just give it a quick prime with some Tamiya. Use the gray primer. Once that's done, I'm going to mix up some paint. And I'm dying to use this paint. I could not wait, and it was perfect for this. Because I got stuck with the black decals instead of colored. It worked it really well because I didn't have to do a traditional orange. I don't like doing things the same as everybody else. So I'm mixing up some Createx paint with some balancing clear, and then I'll add some reducer. This is a metallic, and it's a silver blue metallic. And I bought this. I don't remember why I bought it, but I had something in mind, and then I didn't end up using it. And this is the perfect opportunity. I thought it would go good with the black decals that he sent me. And this stuff is amazing. And it's the metallic blue silver. And I couldn't have been... I mean, this is amazing. Amazing stuff. It came out really, really good. I can't wait to show you guys. So I'm hunting through my box. Oh, crap. And this is all stuff I've taken apart. And there's some real good goodies in there, actually. But I'm looking for a dashboard and steering wheel because I just didn't feel right putting it body back together or the interior in with 2 seats and no steering wheel. So I'm kind of sizing things up. I'm matching them up. And I knew I had something in here. This is a Johnny Lightning Jeep. And actually the dash is just kind of slid in. So I just kind of pop it out. And it was the exact width that I was looking for. I didn't have to really fabricate anything, which worked out pretty good. I was happy with that. And but it's a perfect fit. So that's why I always keep everything. I have multiple boxes of junk. And there's always bits and pieces that I find that I'm hunting for or I remember I have. So it's always a good practice to keep everything because you never know. And because I do a lot of Gasland stuff or Mad Max post-apocalyptic, it's always good to have bits and pieces. So the only thing I had to do was cut those little tabs off that on the Jeep itself. It was around 2 posts. So once I take those off, I can file them. And it was actually really good because they were so cheap on the interior. It's just a flat firewall piece. So once I sanded it semi-smooth, because this was kind of had a little bit of a curve to it, so I just filed it, sanded it straight, glued it on, and it was now a complete interior, minus the back seat, obviously. But yeah, this was a fun project. I was a little hesitant at first, and then just when I saw, he told me it was rough when he sent it to me. Then when I got it in the mail, it's pretty bad. But so here it is. I got 1 coat on it. I lost 1 thing of footage. I'm not sure where it went. I was having some problems with my camera card. So it's got one coat. I'm getting ready to put the 2nd coat on. I had to clean out my gun. It was acting up a little bit. So excuse me. Allergies are killing me again. So this stuff with the Createx paint, your best bet is to put a light tack coat on, and then once that happens, you can do it almost whatever you want. It almost like it bites to what's already there, and you can, my biggest fear has always been runs and being too close and too heavy-handed. And if I can control myself, which I've been doing on the first coat, and just put a light tack coat on it, then let it sit and be patient for 5 minutes. Then come back. I can almost do whatever I want. You can put it on as heavy or as light as you want. And the end result is just amazing. This metallic blue silver it made the car. I was blown away by how cool it looked. I'm glad I used it. I can't wait to find something else to use it on. These decals were not the greatest. They work fine. If you touched them the wrong way, they did scratch. I didn't want to sometimes you can put like a matte clear on them or a clear coat to protect the ink. The ink didn't run at all. It's just it was very, very brittle. I tried. He sent me the whole sheet, so I tried one on something else just to see how it was going to go. But overall, this went fine. The decal process, I'm not a decal person. If you watch any of my videos, I've kind of shied away from it just because for me it's a pain in the neck. But this came out good. I was really, really happy with these. I was worried about like the General Lee on the side. Everything worked perfect. I don't know where he got them from. I'm assuming eBay or something like that. But overall, I think the black on the metallic blue silver, and I say blue silver, it's just a shade of blue. It's definitely a lot more silver than blue. But even in this light in the camera, and the camera never really gives you a true look at what color something is. It's definitely got a nice tint to it. Now it's just a matter of assembly and the final reveal. So once again, I appreciate you guys watching, subscribing, liking, commenting, even the bad comments. I've heard that I talk too much. I've heard that I don't talk enough. I've heard that I'm boring as hell. But you know what? I do it. Hopefully you guys see something you like or learn something or learn what not to do or whatever. But once again, I appreciate it, and I'll catch you on the next one.